You're listening to the Truck Talk with Trivista podcast, brought to you by TrivistaCompanies.com, the ultimate source for all things trucking. I'm Anita Massey, Director of Marketing for Trivista Companies. Thanks for joining us. Today our topic is the value of leasing. We'll be exploring the different thought processes around which is the better way to secure a truck. Is it buying, leasing, finance leasing? Which option really makes the most sense? The Trivista Companies dealerships help to make up the 400 plus Idealease locations throughout North America. And because each of our dealerships sell, rent, and lease vehicles every day, our teams take great care to stay educated on the facts regarding each of these scenarios to properly explain the benefits to each of our customers. Today we'll be joined by Keric Kennedy, Executive Vice President and COO of Idealease. Keric has been with Idealis for 29 years and works at the corporate offices here in North Barrington, Illinois. Keric, why don't we start by having you introduce yourself and telling our listeners a little bit about how you got started with Idealis.
Sure. Thank you, Anita, and welcome to the Idealis corporate offices. But, as you said, I've been with the company for 29 years, and I started right out of college. And so this is pretty much all I know. I got my start in working with in our what we call our sales engineering group, and I was there for about 3 years and helped spec and develop lease rating for customers in our national account group. And then shortly after that, I had the opportunity to move into sales. So for 17 years, I was in national account sales, and then after 17 years there, I've been the last 9 at here at as the COO of Idealis. So Idealis, just to tell you a little bit about our organization, we have over 430 locations in North America, so Canada, U.S., and Mexico. We are based primarily out of international truck dealerships, right, which gives us significant amount of service power, if you will. So what I mean by that is, these are truck dealerships that have $1.5 million to $2.5 million worth of parts inventory per location, anywhere from 20 to 45 technicians. So these are vast dealership operations that has, if you will, a division or a department within the dealership, and that's Idealease. We're branded as Idealease. We work together with one common goal. We like to feel that our core values are expertise, responsiveness, and stability. And with that the power of the dealership behind us, we're able to then service our customers that contract with us, provide them with what we're about to talk about and the value of full service lease through a vast network of 430 plus locations.
Wow, that's a great story, Keric. Well, I'm really excited to get into today's topic, the value of leasing. And you and I both know there's a lot of benefits to leasing. So let's start by talking about why it is that leasing in general is perceived as being kind of the most expensive way for a customer to get a vehicle.
Yeah, it's interesting that what I use a lot is an analogy. We sit and talk to a customer and talked about convenience and lower cost, but convenience and lower cost really don't go hand in hand together, right? If you buy a box of tissue or detergent from 7-Eleven, you expect to pay more for the convenience than if you were at a Walmart or someplace like that. And that's very similar to what happens in full service lease. People scratch their head and say, well, how can you be convenient and save me money? And, we look at 4 cost areas, and we'll get into those in a little bit, but our purchasing power. We buy thousands of trucks a year, and we have the ability to pass that on to our customers, as well as the maintenance spend as well. We have our own maintenance facilities. So, like I said, we'll get into that in a little bit, but there's definitely a perception there. And I think we were talking a little bit earlier, right? And I mentioned a customer one time said to me, if this is so great, Keric, and saves me so much money, why isn't everybody doing it? And Anita, I'll tell you, I wake up every morning with that thought. Is like, why isn't everybody doing this? I understand the economics of it, so it's easy for me. It's just we feel every day we've got to be out there trying to educate those that own their trucks today. And full service lease is a better way for them.
Exactly. Well, I'm hoping you're going to get into some of those details a little later because I myself would like to know a little bit of the economics. Sure. So I guess let's talk a little bit about the FSL, or full service lease as it's known. Can you kind of talk about that business model and explain some of the benefits of this type of lease and who it's best geared for?
Yeah, absolutely. So we look at first, probably the best way to explain it is what we call the ideal customer profile. And that's not a play on Idealease, the word Idealease. It's who we think the perfect customer is for us. And it's the private fleet. And a private fleet, just so everybody is aware how we define that, is a company that is in, they do something other than trucking as their primary business. And so they manufacture food, they distribute food, something like that, but they have to have trucks to move their own product. So that's the private fleet first and foremost. We look for the ones that pay cash. They own their trucks today, or they finance their trucks. And then the biggest one of the 3 points is maintenance is outsourced to a third-party vendor. They don't have the economy of scale at any of their locations to put in their own maintenance facilities, right, and have their own technicians. So, these are companies that are going to have, it could have anywhere from 1 to 3 trucks in a location, could have 50 trucks in a location. But I'll give you an example, or 3 examples actually, of customers that we full service lease and they once owned their trucks. So I'll start with a local company. They have anywhere from 1 to 3 trucks. They might even have up to 10 trucks. But they're all Class 6 delivery. There's only one location. They're only located, let's say, in Louisville. And that's not enough vehicles to open up your own maintenance facility and have your own technicians. You just can't bring economy of scale there. So they're a prime candidate for full service lease. We also have 2 national companies. One, we have more than 2, but 2 that I'm using as an example. One has 650 trucks. They're Class 7 delivery trucks. They have 250 locations, but they have 650 trucks. So you think that, boy, they've got economy of scale. But when you spread that over the 250 locations, that's only 2.5 trucks per location. Again, same scenario, it's kind of like that local account that I was talking about. They don't have enough economy of scale in any one of those locations to open their own maintenance facility and have their own technicians. They are a prime candidate for full service lease. And then the largest one, this customer of ours that we've had for several years, they have over 4,000 trucks in their fleet, Class 5 to Class 8. You would think that they have economy of scale. However, they have 350 locations. So you divide that out, it's 11.5 trucks per location on average. They don't have the economy of scale. So you keep hearing the same thing. Don't have economy of scale to open their own maintenance facilities. They have to outsource their maintenance. That really is the number one point, that if you're outsourcing your maintenance because you don't have the economy of scale, you are a prime candidate for full service lease. There are, I will say, on the other side of that, let's say you have 120, 150, or even more vehicles in one location, you're probably not a prime candidate for full service lease. Not to say that we wouldn't take a look and see what we can do, but you start getting into some of the same economies of scale that we can bring to the smaller location fleets.
So I know Idealease has a formal process that you guys use for determining that economic value when you're comparing the options of owning versus a full service lease. Can you talk a little bit about this process?
I'm going to give you my elevator speech, right? Because there's try to get our sales team out there to understand what's the best way to get somebody's attention. If we're sitting in front of an owner of a company, CFO of a larger company, we want to hit our points real fast so they understand, and they might generate interest in wanting to learn more about what we have to do, or what we can bring value to. We do have a special term for it, but I'll just call it our lease versus own analysis. And it really just nails down 4 cost areas of owning a truck. And it's the purchase price, it's the interest rate or your cost of capital, it's the residual or the used truck value at the end, and what is your total life cycle maintenance. Now the purchase price, what we do basically is we'll set 2 sides of the sheet, if you will, and we'll put the purchase price that the customer can buy a truck for, what their interest rate will be to finance that truck, what do they think they'll get for that truck in 6 years or 7 years when they're done using it. And that's pretty easy to calculate. Then it comes down to the last piece. What do you think it's going to cost you to maintain that truck the next 6 or 7 years. And this is typically where we lose that customer, right? And because they misunderstand and underestimate what it really costs to maintain a truck using a third-party vendor. And I'll use a couple examples. Class 6 straight truck that runs 30,000 miles a year. It's a dry van, 24-foot box on it with a lift gate. It costs somewhere between 21 and 25 cents a mile for 6 or 7 years to run that truck at 30,000 miles a year. Over 6 years at 23 cents a mile, that comes out to be over $41,000.
Wow, $41,000?
Right. And that's where we lose usually. If the customer knows what it costs to maintain a truck, they're on board with us. They're shaking their head. Yes, we understand and we agree. But I'll tell you, more than 50% of the time, the customer doesn't have any idea what it costs to maintain a truck. And they'll never put a number like 41,000 on it. They might say 20 or 25, but that's way off. And there's no magic. Trucks cost that much to maintain. Now, one other step, if you thought that was a wow, let's take a Class 8 day cab tractor running 60,000 miles a year. Now, the cost per mile comes down a little bit. It's about 16 to 20 cents a mile. So let's use the middle point there and say 18 cents a mile at 60,000 miles a year for 6 years. So it has 360,000 miles on it. We project it's going to cost about $64,000 at 18 cents a mile.
My goodness. Yeah, I think you're probably right. Most customers don't take the time to do the math or don't realize how much those percents per mile add up over time.
Right.
Yeah.
And some will buy extended warranties, which we understand, but extended warranties is nothing more than prepaid maintenance. They're buying something that they can sleep at night. They know hey, they're not going to have any catastrophic, but they're paying for that up front if they use it or not. So I mean, even if you buy extended warranties, these type of costs still are out there.
That's amazing.
And then, so that's on the ownership side. That's somebody who's buying a truck. And so on the ownership side of the sheet, if you will, we've added it all up, multiplied it out, and it might be somewhere in the neighborhood of $140,000 over 6 years to own that truck. Where then we take the full service lease. Here's what your monthly payment will be. Here's what your mileage charge will be. And it comes out to, let's call it $125,000. And there's a $15,000 savings. In some cases, those type of savings are there. And under a full service lease, it's guaranteed. You know what your costs are going to be.
True. Yeah, that makes sense because it's all wrapped up into the contract.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, I know in a full service lease, you provide other value-added services. Can you talk a little bit about what those services are?
Certainly. So, of course, since we own the truck, we're going to handle titling, licensing, registration. That is an administrative nightmare for some of our customers, right? Either large enough where you have your own people do it, which is expensive, or you hire it out, or if you only have 3 or 4 trucks, you have to have somebody administratively do that. And it is a pain. It's a pain point for sure, and we take that away. Fuel tax and fuel tax reporting, depending if it's that class of vehicle, we take care of that as well. And that's another administrative nightmare that we can remove for our customers.
And this is all being done at the dealership level, correct?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
All right.
Yep. Now, what's helped with fuel tax reporting and licensing and our mileage collection is GPS telematics, right? Now we have a visibility of trucks like we've never had before. In the last 5 years, Idealease has really taken a leading role in GPS and telematics and what we do with that. One, not only do we have visibility of the truck, with Navistar's on-command connection, we have the ability to diagnose what's going on with the truck and be able to fix the truck many times before it even goes back out on the road again. Or if it does break down on the road, we know what is going on and we know what parts to send and reduce that downtime, increase the uptime, if you will. Some other areas that we've gotten into is what we call Elevate. Elevate is taking the driver behavior information out of telematics and be able to sit down with a customer and help drive costs out, bring up fuel economy, reduce accidents by reporting on hard cornering, hard braking, hard acceleration, idle time. All those things play a part in either fuel economy gain or in physical damage or accident reduction. It's been amazing what we've been able to see. We have one customer, I won't get into exactly who it is, but about 600 units with us, and they claim it has saved them somewhere in the neighborhood of about $1.5 million a year before they had telematics. And
My goodness.
with the type of metrics we're able to produce for them. It's been incredible what's been going on out there. Then, and just some of the other things, truck washing and substitute vehicles. Substitute vehicles, if you're not familiar with our industry, if your truck goes down and it's going to be in the shop for 5 days, we can provide a similar vehicle out of our rental fleet and get you going again. And it's all built into the lease structure. And then, of course, with our vast rental fleet of over 11,000 vehicles, we can... If you're leasing from us, we can also give you reduced rental rates as well.
Got it. Okay. Can you talk a little bit about what CPI increases or consumer price index increases are and how those relate to a full-service lease?
Sure. So I mentioned earlier that with a full-service lease, you know what your price is going to be for the next 6 years, right? We're locked in. Well, it's almost there, right? When we put a rate together, I should explain. First of all, CPI increase, what that means is consumer price index. And we have to have a cost of living increase, if you will, built into our leases. Because when we put our leases together, we're including maintenance for labor and parts, all included in tires. Well, every year that goes down, we're into the second, the third, the fourth, all the way out to the 7th year of the lease. Every year we get a little bit of an increase to the labor rate, to the parts, to the tires. No different than if you own a truck. You're going to pay more next year for your labor rate, for your parts pricing, for your tires, and the next year after that. All we're doing is we're using today's prices and costs to develop our lease rate to you. We just need to have the ability or some sort of a mechanism that we both agree on that we get some sort of escalation, and that's where the CPI increase comes from.
Got it. Okay. Well, Keric, we're nearing the end of our time today. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we sign off?
No, just appreciate you being here and having the opportunity to join you on the podcast. And I would ask for some more information. We have a pretty robust website at www.idealease.com. Just in case, everybody, that's one L, IDEALEASE. But thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you giving us a great overview on the value of leasing, and I think you've shed some light on a few misconceptions that are out there in the industry, and I'm sure our listeners will find this information very helpful the next time they're trying to decide whether to buy or lease their next truck. We hope you've enjoyed this edition of the Truck Talk with Trivista podcast. You can find more podcast talks or general information about Trivista Companies and its many dealerships at trivistacompanies.com. Until next time, be safe out there.